Hey everybody, welcome to my suburban oasis. My name's Soleil and I garden in Zone 6A in mid-Michigan, and today we're going to be doing some deadheading. I'm going to be deadheading some Salvia, which is all sorts of different varieties that we have, as well as deadheading some Catchfly today. And we'll talk a little bit also about preparing for the heat wave that is coming around the country. All right, let's get started. So in this garden bed you can see we have lots of Salvia, and it is spent, and while the seed heads look beautiful, I'm going to prepare for the heat wave by cutting these back. There's nothing wrong with leaving them during the heat wave. They actually look fairly beautiful, the calyx, but I want to cut them back, so we're going to get after those, and then we're going to come down here and we are also going to cut back these, which are fairly in the shade right now. And while we're in this garden bed, I may take after this elderberry just a little bit to clean up the base here, because I like to keep it as a tree form. That will help let a little bit more light in for the salvia, a little bit more air in for the cone flowers. All right, let's get going. So this salvia I'm going to take right straight back down to the ground. So let me show you exactly how I do that. We're going to get in real close and show you down at the base of the plant as I clip. So it may seem like it's not the right thing to do to clip the entire plant off, but this is how I like to treat mine. And I know it's pretty aggressive, but for me it helps to really provide a nice new fresh flush of foliage, and it will do that after we have the heat wave. So this will just rest. I will water these after I cut them back, and then we will have a nice fresh root system that is refreshed after the heat wave to be ready to go. So let's get after all of the ones that we have left. So another thing that I'm doing to prepare for the heat wave is just to really ensure that my pots are well watered, and that's important. So make sure that the water runs out of the pot for a little bit at the bottom of the pot before you stop watering. Don't just give it a little sip. Give it a real good deep drink. And you might even want to do that twice a day during the heat wave. Another thing to think about when you're watering is just how drought tolerant plants are. And so as I water, I take a look at them at the end of the day during the drought, because it's really important that you don't overwater, because you don't want to stress the plants when they're already going to be stressed by the heat. So how do you know if something is well watered? If it's drooping and it looks like it really needs water, well, you got to wait. Just wait a little bit until the evening comes, and then go around and take a look. So when I say evening, I'm saying like, maybe 8 o'clock at night. If they are perking back up at that time and the wilt is going away, that means that they are well watered. If it doesn't go away, that means you really do need to get after it and get out the watering can or get out the hose and make sure you give them that good drench of cool water. And that's another thing to think about when it gets hot outside, is using cool, cold water. Plants really prefer that to warm water, as well as they don't like scorching water. So make sure that when you're getting that hose out, it's either in the morning or the evening. And if you can't do that, make sure that you are taking the time to let any of the hot water out of the hose, because any water that is sitting in the hose will get really, really hot during a heat wave. So keep that in mind as well. So we'll show you this garden bed after we're done with it, just so that you can see what it looks like. We have lots of mums that are coming up through here, as well as, like I pointed out the other day, the purple coneflower. So there are things that kind of start to fill in when I have things that have gone out of bloom, and that is intentional, because I like to have kind of something going on in the garden all the time. And I know there are some people who will cut back half of their salvia plant and then they'll cut back the other half a few weeks later. because it gives them an opportunity to have half the plant in bloom and the other half bloom after they cut it back. I hope that makes sense. That's just not a way that I do it, but I wanted to share that with you as another way that you can do this. All right, let's head to the next garden bed after I show you what this one looked like. All right, well, here's the garden bed. You'll notice it looks a little bit more empty, but it also kind of draws the eye now into those cone flowers, as well as the grasses that are growing back in the back and the pots. So you start to have different focal points within the garden bed than you did before. And that's a really fun thing to have available in the garden. Now you'll also notice the daffodil foliage in here is all dried up and that kind of thing. So I will also be coming through and just kind of grabbing some of that foliage as we go. All right, let's head down to the next garden bed and we'll start on that one. All right, so we are going to trim back these Caradonna Salvia here. These are the same type of salvia as the other ones that I had over there. I had some Caradonna as well as some May Night Salvia. And this technique works on all of the Salvia nemorosa varieties. And if you're not sure which one that you have, if it is an upright habit growing like this, you should have no problem just using this technique. One other thing that I want to mention in regards to preparing for the heat wave is that we're leaving our grass at the height that it is. It actually could use cutting right now if it wasn't going to be a heat wave, but because it is, the importance of leaving it a little bit longer helps to shade the ground, and so that's going to be really important to help protect the ground from losing some of its moisture. So that will help save the lawn a little bit more in the long run. If you also want to do it, you can water your lawn. I choose not to water the lawn, so that's also part of why we're keeping the lawn a little bit longer during this week. So I've been pruning this black lace elderberry up into tree form, and if I was going to take quite a few branches off, I would not do that before a heat wave, but because this is some minimal kind of touch-up pruning, it's okay to do. So I'm just going to come in and take off some of these lower branches, including down around the trunk, and also some of the ones that are growing pretty straight forward. Not a whole lot, just enough to kind of get in here and clean out the trunk. Again, so I can expose the trunk here and let a little bit more light and air in around the base. Some of these might actually just be able to be finger pruned off, where I just kind of pull on them. Some of them might not. A crossing branch in here I'm going to take out as well that will open it up a little bit. There we go. And then we'll just pop a few off over here and along these back branches. And you'll see how just a little bit of pruning goes a long way this time of year. And this is after this bush has flowered, which is the ideal time to prune it. But like I said, I would not do a heavy prune on this because of the heat wave that's coming. I would just do this, kind of small cleanup right now, and I would wait until next week when the heat wave is over to come through and do anything more significant. A couple small ones over here and we'll be done. Here we go. So you can see now how that really opens up the base of that plant and allows some more light in for the plants that are underneath of it. I do see a couple of small salvias poking up in here, so I'm just going to grab those real quick also. All right, let's head to the back garden and take care of some of that catchfly plant. Here we are in the back garden surrounded by some beautiful blooms, but these are all going to get like really fried, and it's a lot of extra vegetation to be on these plants during this heat wave. So I am going to cut these back, and like I had talked about with the salvia up front, I'm going to give this bed a good water, and that way the basal rosettes of these plants will be nice and healthy and ready to push out new growth when the heat wave's over. So let's come in real close and I'll show you how I'm going to start this. So you look for where the basal rosette is, and then you're just going to follow each one of the stems right down to the base here and cut them out. And I apologize, you guys, I have allergies really bad. I took my allergy medicine, but there's not a whole lot that I can do about the fact that I have to sniff every once in a while. So I apologize for that. But you can see here, I'm just following them all the way back to the base and cutting them. So I'll have a lot of, foliage and debris to take out of this garden, but that way it doesn't have to support this during the heat wave. I'm also gonna do a little cut back on this redbud here. I see some little suckers growing. So here are some more of those little stems that we're going to cut back from all of these. And one thing I do have to watch for with these being variegated is if there are any components of it that are reverting to non-variegated. So I actually see one right here. This one is completely green, so I'm gonna just make sure that I kind of get that one as far back as I can, because we don't want the entire plant to revert to all green. We want to keep these variegated because I love the color as it contrasts so well with the hostas or heucheras right here, the bilberry heucheras. So again, this is going to look fairly dramatic once we get all of these trimmed up in terms of the amount of plants that are removed from here, or at least their overgrowth. But in the long run, this is going to be what's best for the plant. Especially because there's a possibility that I could get reblooms on this. It can keep blooming. Sometimes it can be hard to figure out exactly which plant they go to, so just give it a little bit of a tug and then you can follow it all the way back down to the base. All right, well, that looks fantastic because now what you can see is what is actually blooming as the penstemon in the background. So again, in this garden bed, we get a new kind of attractor of what is the focal point of this garden bed. And it definitely opens up some nice air for the boxwood to get some airflow again, as well as that penstemon. And so super happy with how that turns out. And you can see some of the basil rosettes just down in the garden that will be waiting and ready to send out some new shoots after that heat wave passes. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you guys aren't too hot yet, but I definitely believe that the heat wave is going to start and continue all the way through the end of the week. So hang in there and we'll see you next time. Bye.